Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Drew. If it's your first time here, welcome. In this channel, we look at functional anatomy. So we're studying the muscular system at the moment. We're looking at how the muscles work on the human body, and when they contract and they pull on the bones, what kind of movement they make. And that describes functional anatomy or functional movement. So when you understand where muscles attach onto the skeletal system, onto the bones, and then when the muscle contracts and they shorten and they pull, that creates the movement. So you have that appreciation. A lot of things make a lot of sense in terms of movement, in terms of training. If you're a massage therapist or a physical therapist, all the anatomy is essentially the same. We have, of course, slightly individual variation and differences, but essentially everyone has the same kind of toolkit of muscles and bones, a few rare exceptions. So when we understand this, it gives us a really great platform to learn the body. And today we're working our way up the spine, and we're going to be looking at the rhomboids today. So the rhomboids are this section of muscles here, these two orange ones. So we have a rhomboid major, which is the big one. And then we have a rhomboid minor, which is a smaller one. It's essentially one big muscle. And then I've also got here the trapezius muscle here highlighted, because the trapezius, particularly the middle trapezius, so this section here, works in coordination often with the rhomboids. It's almost impossible to kind of isolate the rhomboids and the middle traps without both of them working at the same time. So I just wanted to highlight them. We'll do a whole video on the trapezius themselves because they're a really big, powerful muscle group and they deserve their own video. So let me hide these ones. So we'll just hide the traps so we can see the rhomboids. So the first thing we always do is we look at the origin and insertion. So that's where the muscles connect to the bones on the skeletal structure. So typically origin is in the midline or closest to the medial line. And so the medial line is this basically the spinous process or the shark fins that run up the back of the spine. So these spinous processes through here. So that's going to be the closest to the midline. And then the distal attachment is going to be the medial line here of the shoulder blade or the scapula, or what's often called the medial border of the scapula. So it's essentially attaching this whole border right on the edge of the scapula itself. So if we look at the origin, we can see that it's attaching to the spinous processes of the vertebrae. And there's also big ligament structures coming down through here. So it's kind of ligamentous and also connecting directly onto the bone right down there. So, and it's coming from just the tip of this bone here, which is the seventh cervical vertebrae. So you've got some fascial attachments onto the seventh cervical vertebrae, which is the base of the neck, and that's T1 here. You know T1 between T1 and C7 is because T1 has a rib attachment to it. So it's the thoracic vertebrae 1 will have a rib 1 attachment to it, whereas cervical vertebrae 7 does not. Okay, so that's the easy way you can tell the difference there. So we go down there, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 of the thoracic vertebrae has attachments to the rhomboid. So that's basically this section here is often called the middle back or upper middle back. So if you kind of go below the ribs, that's definitely the lower back. So below the ribs here, between the ribs and pelvis is lower back. Middle back is kind of this whole region here, also thoracic spine. So upper back is often referred to this region through here, upper middle back. Okay. So T1 down to T6, T7. Then we look onto the shoulder blade and we've got the spinous process, the medial border here of the scapula. And so it's going to attach on the whole medial border. So it's a big muscle, and its main role is to do what's called, it really has 3 roles. So we have scapular adduction. So when the muscle contracts, you look at the muscle fiber direction, so you can kind of see the lines of the fibers running up here. So they've got a slight angle going superiorly, a slight oblique line. So when the whole muscle group contracts as a team, it's going to pull this evenly towards the midline and a slight swing of the bottom in as well. When we get to the motion, you'll be able to see that. So it kind of does this and a little bit of that on the bottom. So adduction and a little bit of inward rotation at the bottom, particularly. And so, and the rhomboid minor, it's doing the same thing. It's just pulling up from a little bit higher, basically at the level of your shoulder blade bone that runs across here. This is called the spine of the scapula through here. And so when they work together, they draw the shoulder blade in together like that, which is pretty cool. So the other action, if we look at our complete anatomy app, so we're using complete anatomy 3D for medical, amazing app to learn. We're just scratching the surface today. So if you're interested in anatomy, I highly recommend you get yourself a copy. I'll put the link of in the descriptions where you can find the app. It's a really reasonably priced. I've been using this for years, and it's just a great tool to help you learn anatomy. So please jump on that. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't get any money for that. I just think it's an awesome tool for us anatomy nerds to learn from. So we go down through origin insertion here on the left, and then we go to actions and testing. The rhomboid major is involved in multiple actions, retracts the pectoral shoulder girdle at the acromioclavicular and sternoclavicular joints. Okay, so what does that mean? Retracts the pectoral shoulder girdle. So the pectoral shoulder girdle is basically the scapular humeral. So chest, shoulder, essentially the whole shoulder blade. Anything that's going to move the shoulder blade is kind of like referred to as the pectoral girdle, if you will. Pecs are on the front, chest muscles are on the front. Girdle, it's kind of like acting like a big sling, like think like a horse with a big like bridle and girdle. It's kind of wrapping around. So there's a whole range of different muscles that are going to affect the shoulder, and we're slowly working our way to the shoulder, perhaps the most complex joint in the body. So I bet I digress. So we come back here. So retracts the shoulder at the acromioclavicular and sternoclavicular joints. So the AC joint is this joint here. That's this collarbone. And that's the scapula. So acromioclavicular, AC. So you AC, acromioclavicular joint. So it's going to pull this joint backwards here. And the SC joint is sternoclavicular here on the front. Sternum and clavicular here. So this joint here. Interesting little side fact. This is the only bony articulation which the whole shoulder blade is connected to the actual skeleton itself. All right. That's the only bony articulation point of the whole shoulder, which makes it a bit vulnerable. But the kind of trade-off between that is we have lots of muscles that are keeping the shoulder in position, but we also get a lot of movements. We can move our arm in all directions, which just gives us that freedom of movement. Everything in kind of musculoskeletal anatomy is a trade-off. Okay, so retraction means basically what it's going to do is if you look from the side, this whole complex here is going to move back this way, so retract. So the way to think about that is the shoulder blade itself sits on the rib cage. Like the rib cage is kind of like a round shape to it. It's like a barrel. And when you look at an actual scapula, it's kind of concave, like a round surface concave. So it's kind of like slides and wraps around the ribs. So when you retract, okay, this whole shoulder girdle kind of wraps around backward to that. And retraction and scapular adduction happen together at the same time. All right. So adduction is more just that movement in the kind of that plane, whereas retraction is kind of pulling back and around. So when they combine together, you get this beautiful scap movement. So think like a horizontal row if you're a gym person. So you're doing a horizontal row where it's a cable pull, a barbell pull, a dumbbell pull. Okay, so we're just drawing the shoulder blades back and around. So you're trying to wrap them down. And as you contract this rhomboid, it's going to kind of slightly swing the bottom angle of the intra-angular scapula in. So you get this kind of wrapping effect. Then if we keep looking down at our actions, medial to the, wait, here we go, actions. Sometimes the app is a little clunky to use, I'm not going to lie. But each year it does get better. So I should say when I first started using it, it was clunky as. Okay, so we have downward rotation. Downwardly rotates the pectoral girdle at the acromioclavicular and sternoclavicular joints. So pectoral girdle, so essentially the shoulder blade, the scapula, Now, because the SC joint is the fixed position, right? That's not moving off the sternum, at least you don't want it to move. I did actually, side note, strain this muscle or this joint once, and it took like 12 months to rehab. It was a bitch because it's really, really strong. But when you sprain it, it's because it's basically just ligamentous there. It takes ages to heal up properly. You lose weight bearing in there. It's like doing push-ups. It's real a bit. It was a real tricky, but it healed up. It was okay. I can do push-ups. I did 100 burpees yesterday, push-up burpees, no problem. So we're all good. We're okay. So we're looking at now downward rotation, the pectoral girdle at the acromioculator and SC joints. So what that means is when this is fixed here, and if you kind of like got to visualize a bit, when this position is fixed and these muscles are pulling, it's going to kind of create this kind of downward rotation. So this angle here is going to rotate down. So when you add in the scapular adduction, retraction, and this downward rotation, the angle of these of the medial scapula goes from being angled that way to being angled that way. Angled that way, that way. Now, if you think about the implication of that between the muscles coming up, like the upper trapezius, for example, so in this neutral position here, the upper traps are coming up this way, coming up through here. But if you downwardly rotate and adduct and retract those shoulder blade muscles, you will stretch these muscles out. So that would look like you bring your shoulder blade back, set down, and then you draw your shoulder blade back and down, and you can already get a stretch there, and then you just do a little bit of lateral flexion and you get a really nice trapezius stretch. Okay? But if you let that kind of shoulder blade go, you lose the stretch through the neck. Okay? So this is where anatomy is really helpful. It kind of helps you describe and figure out how to do certain exercises, strengthening or stretching exercises. And then the third one, it helps stabilize the scapula against the thoracic wall. So essentially, any muscle that helps keep the shoulder blade in a good position while the shoulder is moving through the glenohumeral joint, it's called a scapular stabilizer. So scapular stabilizers are, it's kind of like you rotate a cuff, but for the actual shoulder blade. And we want them to be nice and functional. So when you're doing things like overhead pressing, push-ups, pulls, dips, that the shoulder blade itself, the scapula, is kept nice and snug on the rib cage, so we don't get what's called rib flaring or winging of the scapula, where the bottom part of the scapula start to float off the rib cage, and that would mean that they're not sitting nice and snug on the ribs, and these muscles here are getting stretched and lengthened and in a weak position. And when you get the lower fibers or the rhomboids weak, what happens is these upper fibers become more active and they get stronger and tighter. And then you get the reverse happens. Instead of getting this nice downward rotation and adduction, you get this outward rotation, protraction, and elevation of the shoulder blade. So you start to kind of get this shrugging action happening. And what people can do then is they can elevate, protract, and then slightly lock down, and then in that position they have actually quite a strong position to push in, and they can do their push-ups and their presses in this kind of like fixed position where they should be back here with those nice scapular stabilizers. So we're often seeing that when we're working with people with upper neck, shoulder problems, is we've got to restore this balance between the upper and the lower part of the shoulder complex, and that's where those big kind of trapezius muscles come into play as well. So they're the key theory things there. In terms of trigger points, you're going to get some trigger points down along the inside border here, and some along on near the spinous process as well. So if you're doing like your self-myofascial release with some balls, some nice rubber balls, you're going to get some nice gnarly trigger points in through here. Okay. So massage always feels amazing when you're getting through here because these muscles are always getting worked, particularly if you're doing training. If you do a lot of desk work, you tend to get that elevated, protracted, and abducted shoulder, okay, which is the classic pattern. These muscles will get overworked and tire out very quickly. Before we go to motion, let's have a look at the innervation. So which nerve attaches to it? Okay. Insertion, origin, innervation here. Dorsal scapular nerve C4, C5. So the muscle the nerve that innervates these muscles here come from C4, C5. which is going to be C7, C6, C5, C4. So you get the nerve coming out through here, and it's going to thread down and innervate, as in like connect into the muscle at this level. So this is important to kind of appreciate, because if you've had a neck injury before, like a whiplash, or if you've just had super tight muscles and you're getting a little bit of compression, restriction, you might get some kind of sensitization of these muscles through the base of through the middle of the neck, and that can create, issues downstream. So typically when a nerve is getting compressed by another structure, so it could be a really tight muscle, it could be some arthritic changes, loss of disc height, anything that's really going to like compress down on the nerve, it can like interfere with the signals coming down. So it could like exacerbate the signals or decrease the effectiveness of the signals coming down. Either way, it can create dysfunction in the rhomboid. So sometimes we have to look above or up the body a little bit to figure out what's going on in the body itself. So anyone's got any neck issues, if you're working with people who've got a history of neck problems, okay, and they've got really tight upper back, all right, you might want to address the neck at the same time. Okay, and if you're not comfortable with the neck because it's a sensitive structure, definitely refer out. Make sure you cover yourself like that, because you don't want to like play around with people's necks. For example, if you're a personal trainer and you get people who start like doing kettlebell swings or overhead pressing, and they're really tight and restricted through this region here, you can create a problem where these muscles get overly tight and they can press down, and then you could actually exacerbate a potential injury that's already there, or create more of an injury. Not intentionally, you're just trying to do the right thing, but inadvertently you create a problem. So, in your screening process, you just ask if you've got any history of any injuries, okay, and if they mention they've got a neck problem, typically what I would do is do a movement assessment. If they can't get their arm above their head, with their arm bicep kind of next to the ear comfortably without doing some kind of weird postural changes, then I would often get them referred out and make sure that they don't have any neck issues going on, because you want to be super careful with the neck. If you injure the neck, it's variable, but it's a pain in the ass, basically. It's very fixable depending on what's going on, but it's just a very sensitive structure, and it's very uncomfortable and affects people's lifestyles a lot. Because essentially you can have like a hip problem or a lower back problem and it's still crap, but if you get injuries around this area, you're in this basically constant headache, constant brain fog. It's just really disruptive, not good. So let's have a look at the motion of our rhomboids. So we've got a motion on our app, and okay, beautiful. So here is our muscle man, and we have the trapezius muscle. So the 3 big traps, which we'll do another video on. I have done a video on this big one here. This is the lats. Look how big that thing is. It's huge. Video is ready to go. My other computer just suddenly decided to kind of cark it. So it's in the computer store having surgery done on it now. Fingers crossed for my PC. But the data will be fine. It's just, I'll definitely cover it as I don't have access to that at the moment. So we're jumping into the rhomboids. But it's coming. The video is already done. I'm just waiting to upload it. Now, if we fable over here, and then we can see we've got rhomboid major here, rhomboid minor. Actually, I wonder if that was because I was on rhomboid minor. Let me get rid of hide. Yeah, let me go back to here. Fatal. There we go. Good. I must have been on rhomboid minor when I went to get motion. It's essentially the same muscle. So let's break it down. So this is neutral position. All right. And then when you reach the arm forward, so imagine you've just done a push-up and you're in this position here. So in this position, you're going to be in, the shoulder is protracted, the shoulder blade. So it's kind of roll forward, protracted. And the rhomboid here is in a lengthened position. So it's on stretch, and you're not internally rotated in this position. So this is a nice protraction of the shoulder. So how do we get the shoulder blade to pull back? So when this muscle contracts with the rhomboid minor here, it's going to pull back. And as we pull back, that's retraction there. So this part from here to here is retraction. Retraction. So if I just turn it around, retraction, protraction, retraction, protraction, retraction. This is a really important movement to practice. So that looks like protraction, retraction, protraction, retraction, forward, pull back, forward, pull back. So there's another muscle that does the protraction, which is the serratus anterior, which it'll get its own video. It's one of the most underrated overlooked muscles in the body, but it's so powerful and it's really, really important. It's the punching muscle. And so like everything has a balance, positive and minus. And so the balance here is between the rhomboids and serratus anterior, because the rhomboids do this movement, retraction. Serratus anterior does that movement, protraction. Rhomboids, retract. Serratus anterior, protract. Rhomboids, retract. Serratus anterior, protract. Okay. So we'll get to that. So we go from retraction. Now if we keep going, then we'll get, so bring it back to here. So from there, retraction, protraction. Let's look. Retraction there. Now, as you're retracting, the angle here of the shoulder blade starts to skip around a little bit. So we'll see if it shows it. There. Nice. So you look at the angle here of the scapula. See how it changes slightly. Now it's only really showing the rhomboid here, but when you factor in the lower trapezius at the same time, because the lower trapezius is going to attach, put it back on. This section here is a lower trapezius. So when this contracts, it's going to pull downward. So when you get this kind of muscle working, it's going to pull down. So you get this downward pull. And so that's where you get scapular depression there. And so the trapezius with the rhomboids together, it's that nice scapular retraction, adduction, and depression down. And that's the team of the scapular stabilizers. So this is a super important kind of mechanism to train for any shoulder issue, any neck issue, any back issue, because essentially the trapezius are a part of the back extensor group. When they work together, they extend your spine, okay? Or they create rotation when you're pulling on one side. Okay, so it's like this muscle here, the trapezius, if you think about it, this is where the slings come from. So when this muscle contracts and it's pulling down this way, it's going to rotate. And so then you're going to get the obliques on the front other side contract. So you get this kind of twist as they both rotate together to kind of create the rotation. So if this muscle is working really well, then this oblique down here will work really well, and vice versa. So this is where walking comes into it. Remember, walking is the master principle or the master exercise. They work together in gait and kind of those mechanical movements. And then of course you've got the traps. So the traps attaching on the shoulder. So check out the lats. Check out the lats video, see how big this thing is here. And this is another mistake a lot of people make, is some people can get a little bit carried away working with all the small little muscles, and they forget the huge ones. So you can't get much bigger than the lats and the trapezius group. So those three groups, if they're trained correctly, if you don't have any restrictions, if you train the trapezius group properly and the latissimus dorsi group properly, if you train those two correctly, you'll essentially train the entire back body properly. What happens is people just develop postural instability. They develop muscular imbalances. You know, they're too upper trap focused, So they're too tight up here, which weakens this one here, which then means you'll lose that kind of posterior rotational power. So then the obliques in the front might have that super compensate. So you create torques and uneven joint loading. And that's where a lot of people get into kind of problems. I mean, for example, one of my clients today, his goal is to be pain-free, as in not be in pain. And if you've ever been in pain or chronic pain, you kind of don't care about, you know, the fancy stuff of running a marathon or doing a 1 RM deadlift. Like, you just don't want to be in pain. Okay. So the first goal for everybody should be able to learn how to use their body, move all the joints correctly, activate all the major muscle groups in a healthy, robust way so you can build resilience over time. And then once you can do that, you might just be happy doing that itself, or then you can layer in kind of function, fitness, and performance on top of that. Okay, that's at least my philosophy and my approach to it. Seems to work really well with the clients I work with. We kind of reverse engineer, clear any of the medical stuff out, and then we train functional anatomy, just with our understanding of human anatomy, just training these movement patterns correctly, get everything moving well, integrated well, sequenced well, and then often people will get pain-free just doing that, and they're happy with just kind of general movement practices. Then we'll layer in kind of more fitness work if people want to like to start to get after it and then they're enjoying kind of using their body. And then by the time they get to performance, I will typically refer them out to kind of high performance coaches and things like that, because that's just another expertise and a skill set, which I do know, but I prefer to work in that kind of functional space. That's where my jam is. So that's my overview of the rhomboids. If you like the video and if you're appreciating it, my only ask is that you just give us a like, maybe drop a comment if you've got any questions, share. That helps us to feed, you know, the algorithm must, you know, that helps promote the channel. And then the more people can get to see this, they can learn more about their body, get themselves out of pain, and maybe even get inspired and learn more and then become a therapist or a trainer or a massage therapist and help other people. And that way we can share the knowledge and everyone wins. So thank you very much. Next video, we'll probably look at doing the trapezius. It kind of works well with that. So stay tuned for them. Hope wherever you are, hope you're having an amazing day and keep moving, keep training, keep breathing, and we will see you for the next one.